and welcome to the September 2015 edition of the Roundup. I'm Melissa and I'm very pleased to be joined by our new webinar producer, Jordan. So we put on a number of webinars in September, but we've just chosen 4 to focus on for you. If you want to skip to any of our explanations, you can do so. Just check out the description below the video. And if you want to watch any of the webinars in full, you can click on the hyperlinks or you can go to our website, www.lexiswebinars.co.uk. So, to kick us off, Jordan's going to talk a little bit about one of our commercial property law webinars.
Yeah, thanks Melissa. So on the 10th of September this year we had our commercial property law webinar on competition law for commercial property lawyers. And for the webinar we were joined by Adrian Magnus and Chris Bryant, who are both partners at BLP. And in the hour they took us through a range of topics such as anti-competitive practices, tackling lease restrictions, and also some case law developments in the area. So here we have Chris giving us examples of some commonly encountered issues that his clients face. And as Adrian points out, it really highlights the sword and shield nature of competition law when applied to commercial property disputes.
What sort of issues do you think clients come up with, and do you see clients come up with in relation to land agreements and competition law?
The question of enforceability is usually first and foremost amongst the types of questions that we receive. That can be in relation to an existing restriction. So for example, if there's an existing restrictive covenant, some of which I've seen that have been around for 40, 50 years, and it depends the angle you're coming from. In some cases it's a question of looking at whether competition law can be used to avoid or extinguish a restrictive covenant, and I've certainly come across that on several occasions. But also for clients who are considering imposing or enforcing new restrictive covenants, or indeed restrictions in leases, the question of how far they can go, what they can actually do within the confines of competition law is something we tend to see very often.
The issue of non-doms has been particularly prevalent this year, especially surrounding the general election campaign. So following on from this, we were joined by Aparna Nathan and Marika Lemmas from Devereux Chambers, who came and talked about this very topical issue. They looked at the new non-resident capital gains tax regime, and they looked at the tricky computation for NRCGT gains, including its interaction with ATED.
There has clearly got to be an interaction between 4ZZB and 4ZZA, and that is set out at paragraphs 10 to 19 of Schedule 4ZZB, where you've got an overlap, where you've got something that could be chargeable to NRCGT under the new regime, or you've got something that would be within the charge to ATED-related CGT. What we do know is that ATED-related CGT takes precedence. So where you've got the overlap, ATED-related CGT applies at its 28% tax rate.
So in a sense, if for any period where a relief from ATED-related gains applies, that period will be chargeable at the lower 20% rate for NRCGT.
Yes, sadly nothing will escape.
So long as also the relevant dates, the commencement dates also apply. So you need to know thresholds, dates, and of course which rate to apply.
Yes, yes.
Very straightforward.
Very simple.
Okay, so earlier this month we had our employment law webinar on holiday pay with a particular focus on commissioned workers. And for that webinar we were joined by Victoria Webb and Nicola Newbegin, who are both barristers at Old Square Chambers. So they used the hour to take us through a number of key recent judgments in the area, including the EAT's ruling in Bear, Scotland and Fulton, as well as the recent ECJ case of Lock and British Gas. So at the end of the webinar, Victoria and Nicola, as we see here, had an interesting discussion about the relevance, if any bonuses received when calculating holiday pay.
As a starting point for discussion and thought, my view would be you need to look at what is normal remuneration. As with Lock and British Gas, the level of pay in respect of annual leave has to include commission, and reading in words reference to amount of work done, including the outcome of work done. I think it's very arguable that bonuses are all about payment in respect of an outcome of work done. And I don't see in principle, although I stand to be corrected, why bonuses ought not automatically to be subject to that same logic as commission.
Finally, we ran an interesting dispute resolution webinar this month on jurisdictional issues and arbitration. The webinar was chaired by Professor Dominic Regan, and he was joined by George Spalton from 4 New Square and Zanis Mavrogodato from 20 Essex Street. George started the webinar by looking at international commercial arbitration and how jurisdiction may be determined, as well as potential challenges to jurisdiction. He also gave some tips on how you might want to advise clients. Then Zanis looked at how investment arbitration can potentially be used to enforce commercial arbitration awards where there's a relevant bilateral investment treaty. The workaround raises many interesting questions, and the webinar as a whole is worth watching for anyone who's involved in international arbitration.
It's important that people, because I mean the perception is that I understood it was on the increase. I was just trying to get a grip on why that was so.
Yeah, then there's a gamut of reasons, but definitely enforcement is the key, and then of course jurisdiction therefore at the front is a key.
And just the international nature of the tribunal that you can put together in arbitration. You get away from the sense that you have a host state court that is perhaps in the pocket of one of the parties.
Sure. You've got because you're all sort of combining to select the.
That's right. You choose your tribunal. Better party autonomy.
Yes,
hopefully better decision making.
Yes. Whereas litigation is the lottery. Yes, and who knows who you might get.
Okay, so that wraps up this month's roundup video. So thanks for watching, and if you don't yet subscribe to LexisNexis webinars and would like some more information, then you can go on our website at www.lexiswebinars.co.uk, or you can also always email us at webinars@lexisnexis.co.uk, or you can also follow us on Twitter at LexisUKWebinars. So thanks for watching.